the Lord.
Right.
You know, but I find that it is wisdom when the Lord gives anything, a prophetic word, a discussion that something perked your spirit, or an outright vision. I think it's very wise to just take that and give it right back to the Lord, and let Him piecemeal it the way He desires. Because if He shows us a great big picture, there are steps probably. If it's a big thing like a tent that went from a little tent peg to a big top, I mean, those are a lot of steps for something like that to come to pass.
Right.
Which really goes back to what I saw last week, which was that horse that was rearing.
Right.
And the horse was rearing because either the idea, because the horse was a mindset, a new idea that you had, either that thing was not well thought out, it wasn't time for it yet, it was a wrong idea, or it's the person who's driving it and they're afraid, they're discouraged, they're not seeing the big picture yet, they're double-minded, they're going at it one way and then shifting and all. So it sounds as if we need to pray into the people that left here, that God will give them clarity on the things that they got in prophetic words, the things that they heard, what they got excited about while they were here, and that they will develop it enough to allow the Lord to give steps. I was studying Acts this week, Acts 16, and it was talking about Lydia getting saved. And it just came so natural from her for the moment of it to invite them to come be in her house, because we can't help but just be who we are. And so I think sometimes we go and we think we've got to do that next big thing. We've got to do such huge things, when really it's about going along, being who we are, and God opens doors for us.
Right.
And I remember somebody saying something one time to me, this man at this church, you know, I want to make you a prophet, whatever like that. And I says, I think that before you need to go get any prayer from that. I don't know if y'all know John Hamrick from where that thing was done out there. But anyway, I had a meeting with him, and I said, a little bit uncomfortable about them saying that to me, and don't know what to do. And he says, well, I tell you what, you can't help but be what you are. Why don't just be what you are? Why does anybody have to label it? Just be who you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't have to label it, and, you know, you can't help but be an expression of who you are.
Right. And with some things, when you hear them, and they're of the Spirit, and that goes to the Galatian church, you've begun in the Spirit, are you going to be now made perfect in the flesh? And it's so easy for us in the church, we hear something, okay, is this God? Now we kind of force, we want to make that happen or work it out. And that's not bad, that's our heart. But what you said, wait, give it right back to the Father, let's release it back and watch the steps. And you'll see He'll confirm it over time. And I mean, it just, our identity is in Him, not in what He's called us to do.
Right.
I think, you know, it's so important that we concentrate on giving our yes to God at every step of whatever it is we're walking through. If it's some kind of a problem with our heart, we have to say the first yes. That, Lord, I want to be free of this issue. And let Him show us what the next issue is. And if He shows us something that's not particularly likable to us, if we're serious, then we have to say, yes, Lord, show me how. And then He shows you how, and you take a step. You know, He wants to walk us through. He doesn't, I find this in my life, I'll put it that way, qualify it that way. He's never given me a huge big picture and say, now go for it. There has always been instructions. And if I didn't listen to the instructions and got too, thought, well, I can do this part, it didn't work. Until I came back and submitted to the original vision.
I can give you several examples of that. Let me just give you one. Practically, when I was younger, I was editor of a publishing company, and we were doing at a Christian Booksellers Conference in Tulsa. You know, we had our booth set up, so we went to one of these great charismatic churches in Tulsa at the time of the 1970s. And the pastor in the church called me out of the audience. Stand up, sir. I see that you are going to be wealthy, that God is going to put wealth in your hands. Ooh, that's a good word. I'll take that word. So we're driving back to Harrison, Arkansas, where our publishing company was, and I'm talking to the head of our publishing company, who is my boss. well, Cliff, what do you think that meant? Thinking, oh, I mean, it's going to obviously come through Cliff. I mean, it's going to come through my boss. If money's going to come my way, it must come through him. Let's see what he has to say. Maybe he's going to give me a raise or whatever, And he said, boy, I don't know what that means. That's just what he said.
Closed door.
Closed door there.
It's not coming from me.
Yeah, and so that word, so what was my goal? Was I to quit that job and try to make it on my own and have wealth come to me? No, I wasn't. So I just stayed in that. And over the years, the Lord dropped some wealth into our lives in ways I never imagined in what I was doing. So what the Lord had said many years earlier came about, but not through my efforts in any way. It's through what He'd prepared for me, so I could even be here today working at Morningstar without wondering if I'm going to have enough money to live on tomorrow because we're on the missionary salaries. He took care of it. So those big words, these words from God. I had one from Mills, what's his first name, who he'd go around just giving prophetic words using the Bible, and in the 70s, another charismatic thing, and he was saying, enlarge your tent pegs, enlarge your tent, and all that. Okay, how do I do that? Well, it's basically saying, watch out in your life. This is what's going to happen. You're going to be enlarged. So, but again, the big thing, we can't make it happen. We go, okay, Father, you're just speaking our identity to us, and what you're even hinting to us that you see is already we're going to be.
Yeah.
It's like the coach seeing the basketball player in high school and going, that could be an NBA player one day.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach looks at them and says, I see something in your future when you just develop and know how good you are. So they see that, and our Father sees that in us. Sometimes he'll share a prophetic word again, but He will help us walk into that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't force it. Now there are things we will have to do in life. We have to practice. If it's basketball, we're going to develop our skills in that. But He already saw that in advance. As you walk in your calling, who I have you, this is where you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't force it, but He'll bring it about.
That's right. That's where he that is faithful in little will be faithful over much.
Yeah.
And if we're faithful to start it right, then it will probably, proceed much more quickly than if we planned it or if we tried to do it.
Yeah, but part of it is starting it. So you take the step. We'll say, well, if God wants it, let Him have it, let Him bring it about. Well, no, I still had to work for a living. I still, right?
Right.
You have to take the skills. You have to take the step. You
Yeah.
just take the step, and and you feel good in that step.
Yeah.
At that point in your life, that's where you feel good in it. Is there another step? He'll open up the next step, but the goal is to be actively passive, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm listening to you, and I'm going to move as much as I feel you want me to move. So you've got to do something, but you can't run ahead of His move, or He'll bring you back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't see Him taking anyone from a little camping tent to the big one, unless you get some other size tents in between.
Yeah,
Usually.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Usually you graduate, little steps. And sometimes you might get a good word like I did. Your first step is get some counseling.
Yeah.
Yay!
What does that mean?
That wasn't what I was expecting, God, but okay.
No, but that's
Well, He will join us with
Yes.
those who are part of
Mm-hmm.
what prepares us to stand in the end of
He'll make it possible.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's counseling, whatever it else, He'll make it
Yeah.
possible. What He saw, He will help bring about. He will bring it about. So I think that's encouraging, just in hearing these prophetic words. They are always encouraging, realizing He's going to do it. He saw it. He's going to do it. He's proclaimed it. I'm going to live in it, and I'm going to trust Him that He brings it about. So.
Well, and in Proverbs, I was reading Proverbs today, and it was really talking about wisdom cries aloud in the street. It's all around us. God wants us to have it. It was talking about the fact that when we're crying out for it, we're crying out for it, we're very active. It was saying, if you do this, then I will do this. It was this cause and effect thing. And all the ifs were how diligently we were seeking to get answers, seeking to get that wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and all. And then He says, if you'll do that, then this is what I'll do. I'll give you the wisdom. I'll make your path straight. I'll, you know, success is stored up for you. I'm going to be a shield in front of you. I'm going to do all these things if you'll do that. So I think the key is what she's talking about, just getting before God and spending time until you get the first step or God opens the first door.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So he gets pressed in.